feel like I've been asked to do like cozy, spooky horror movies that aren't too scary, so I've compiled a list of my favorite comfy, cozy, spooky horror movies that are perfect for fall and Halloween. I also, of course, recommend watching these past fall and Halloween, so if you're stumbling across this video in November or December, that is honestly probably the perfect time to watch a lot of these movies because of the comfy fall atmosphere in them. So when I think of cozy horror movies, they're obviously not too horrifying, they're not too scary, but it has to do more so with like the setting and the time of year it takes place in and the kind of atmosphere. So I'm not gonna lie, this list mostly contains movies that are set in old haunted mansions or old haunted houses that are lit by candlelight or mood lighting. A lot of ghost stories, the fall season being really prevalent, or they're set in the woods, and I think the like sweaters and fall fashions are just like an added bonus for me. Also, side note, if you are wanting the exact opposite of this video, where you just want some super scary movies to watch, I will also be doing that video coming soon. Most of these are streaming, so hopefully it's really easy for you to find and watch them, but if that's not the case, then luckily I'm working with NordVPN on this video to bring you an exclusive deal so you are able to stream these movies no matter where you live. And I'll get back to that in a second, but I do think a VPN is very essential in protecting your data and privacy, especially with all of the cyber attacks that exist out there, such as hacking, password attacks, malware, things like that. And NordVPN has a really cool feature called threat protection that is always running in the background. I always have it on whenever I'm using my computer, but it runs in the background even if you're not connected to a VPN server, which I think is awesome. So you'll be protected no matter where you are on all of your devices because you can use NordVPN on up to 6 devices with just one account. But as I mentioned, these movies are streaming on different streaming platforms, and I'm going to be sharing where they're streaming in the United States, but if you're not located here, you are able to use a VPN to kind of bypass your location. It blocks your IP address, so you're able to click anywhere on the map, and then you're connected and you have access to all of that country's streaming content. Also, a couple of these movies are not streaming anywhere in the US. You have to rent or buy them, so if you are somewhere that is outside of the US where these movies are streaming, please let us know down below. So make sure you visit nordvpn.com/possessedbyhorror to get the exclusive deal. You get 4 bonus months for free with a huge discount, and it's completely risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. So let's get into the 10 cozy, spooky horror movies. I'm sorry in advance for how many times I'm going to say cozy in this video. I can't help it. That's just some of the best. That's one of the best descriptors for a lot of these movies, so I apologize in advance. If anyone wants to keep a tally and leave a comment, let me know how many times I actually do say cozy. First up, we have a movie that was just released last year, and that is Cobweb. Young Peter is plagued by a mysterious constant noise from inside his bedroom wall, a tapping that his parents insist is in his imagination. As his fear intensifies, he starts to believe that his parents are hiding a terrible and dangerous secret. Now, this is actually set around Halloween time, so you're getting a lot of that Halloween atmosphere. The pumpkins, like, they have a whole pumpkin patch in their yard for some reason. I don't know why. They just grow a lot of pumpkins. And then they have like a really old rickety house. I think it's a beautiful setting. It's very October vibes. Now, a lot of these movies are rated PG-13. That doesn't mean they're not technically scary to some. A lot of supernatural movies are rated PG-13, but I find those to be scarier than a lot of rated R movies. However, Cobweb is rated R. I just thought I'd mention that because I did say that a lot of these are not that scary, but different things scare different people. I don't think this movie is too much though. I think it is more on kind of the supernatural element, if you could say that it makes it a little less scary. I don't think it would be too much for a beginner. Can I say that? I think the concept is more disturbing than anything we're actually seeing, but there are some really cool visuals that I was just a huge fan of. I really enjoyed it, but it does have that like mystery psychological aspect to it that I think makes it so most people can handle a movie like this. Now, this wasn't very successful. It didn't have any marketing really, and it was released at a really bad time, I'm gonna say, because Barbie came out in theaters. I think that was in July, and that's just not a great time for a Halloween movie to be released midsummer. No one's really feeling it, but it does have recognizable actors in it, and it is Seth Rogen's first horror movie that he has produced, but it didn't do well, and that's kind of sad. So anytime I get a chance to talk about Cobweb, I want to. This does have a few tropey moments that I'm typically not a huge fan of, but overall I really enjoyed this movie, and I want to rewatch it every single year. And it definitely gives cozy. Next up, we have The Changeling. Changeling from 1980. This follows composer John Russell, who is vacationing with his family when a car accident kills his wife and daughter. Distraught with grief, Russell leaves his home in New York City for a giant secluded house near Seattle. Soon Russell starts to feel the presence of a ghost, a boy who drowned in the bathtub there. Now, when you ask the internet for cozy horror, this movie is going to be on every single one of those lists, so I thought, why not include it in mine? Now, in my opinion, this is one of the least scary movies on this list. I just feel like they focus a lot more on the actual story, and the ghosts, you know, there are some unsettling moments here and there, but I feel like the ghosts just mean well, you know? It's not necessarily like super scary. I do wish this one was a little bit scarier and kind of pushed the supernatural elements a little bit more, because then I think I would have enjoyed it more. But at the same time, it's great for beginner horror fans, or, you know, a movie to pop on with your friends who aren't necessarily the biggest horror fans. And this is like a comfy, spooky thriller type of movie. Next up, we have The Others. Grace, the devoutly religious mother of Anne and Nicholas, moves her family to the English coast during World War II. She awaits word on her missing husband while protecting her children from a rare photosensitivity disease that causes the sun to harm them. Anne claims she sees ghosts. Grace initially thinks the new servants are playing tricks, but chilling events and visions make her believe something supernatural has occurred. Speaking of like an old haunted house, this one is gorgeous. It is lit by candlelight the entire time because obviously no sunlight is allowed in the house. So even in the daytime scenes, candlelight, just candlelight, which is just such a vibe. Like I just want to live in this house. It is stunning. The clothing, the fog, the accents, the candlelight, all of it is really contributing to this like really comfy, cozy atmosphere. But then the house is haunted, so you have the supernatural element, and this story is really, really cool. I'm sure we all know about this movie by now. This would be a great watch from November through January, I feel like, because it's very cold and dark and foggy. So I just feel like that's a little bit more appropriate for later in the year, or like really, really early in the year. And I think one element that makes a lot of these movies more on the cozy, comfy side is the removal of technology, because they're more period pieces. So a lot of these movies are set in different time periods, or early 2000s, late 90s, or just they are literal period pieces like The Others, where it takes place at a different time. Remove the technology. We don't need phones or computers to have, you know, a comfy atmosphere. And I think it just makes it that much more comfy. I thought I'd say cozy a lot in this video. It seems that comfy is also the adjective of the day. Now, next up we have House on Haunted Hill. This is the 1999 remake. I actually haven't seen the original, which I feel like a fake fan because I love the remake, but I feel like I could add that on also to a cozy, spooky list. A millionaire with theatrical tendencies, Stephen Price, invites a number of people to stay in a vast, creepy building that used to be an insane asylum. Stephen, accompanied by his bitter wife, Evelyn, offers $1 million to anyone who can stay the whole night without leaving out of fear. Okay, arguably, I think this movie is genuinely scary. Okay, when I first saw this, some of the imagery is horrifying. It's my kind of horror though, and like things that actually scare me personally, a lot more supernatural elements, the ghosts, things like that. But it does it in a classic like late 90s way that is very comforting to me. Like that time period is very comforting. That's the era I grew up in and when I first kind of started, you know, delving into the horror genre. So something about the style in which it's done makes it more comforting to me. It's a giant mansion, really cool premise. I love the game type of setting where they have to just survive the night to win money. I think that's a really cool concept, especially in a big haunted mansion. Mood lighting galore, rainy day vibes. Just to me, a big haunted mansion is very cozy. Like I just want to live in one. Even haunted. Yes, I would live in a haunted house. I just think what's not to love about that setting, you know? Hope we're not tired of the haunted mansions yet, because I got a lot more. Next up, we have The Haunting. I'm including the 1963 original and also the 1999 remake. I have a lot of 1999 movies on this list. That was just a great year for cozy horror. This horror tale focuses on visitors traveling to the secluded mansion of Hill House who have been called to the isolated location by Dr. David Marrow as part of a study on insomnia. However, Marrow is really investigating fear and he plans to scare the subjects, including the introverted Nell and the seductive Theo. Unfortunately for Marrow, Narrow, and everyone staying at Hill House, the manor is actually haunted by an evil spirit out to torment its guests. I feel like this movie is very similar to House on Haunted Hill in concept, where it's a kind of a group of strangers going to a haunted mansion, and they have like different intents. So some of the people have like different intentions on actually being there, and then oops, everyone finds out it's actually a haunted mansion. I will say the 1963 original, The Haunting, is the better movie if you're going to watch either of them. But I do love that in general it has LGBTQ plus representation. Even in the book it did, and this is based on a book by Shirley Jackson, which I highly recommend as well if you're looking for like a really short, easy read for October. Again, very comfy cozy, but it has really cool descriptions of the horror elements in the book that I don't know if it was fully executed in the movies as well. Now, Mike Flanagan's series, The Haunting of Hill House, is of course based on the book as well, and it is completely different from the actual story, as you might have recognized from that description. Whereas The Haunting 1963 and 1999 are definitely more accurate adaptations to the actual novel. But I do like Haunting of Hill House the most out of any adaptation, even though it's not accurate necessarily to the book. There are little odes to it. I just love that series so much, and I think it's a perfect piece of art. But I will say the 1999 version is probably the least scary movie on this list if I had to pick. Like, definitely great for beginners. Next up we have Sleepy Hollow. I'm sure everyone is putting this on their watch list, especially for a non-horror movie. This one is technically not described as a horror movie as far as I'm aware, like in the traditional sense. The Curse of the Headless Horseman is the legacy of the small town of Sleepy Hollow, spearheaded by the eager constable Ichabod Crane and his new world ways into the quagmire of secrets and murder, secrets once laid to rest, best forgotten, and now reawakened, and he too holding a dark secret of a past once gone. This is a classic fall time spooky movie, okay? It has that spooky atmosphere, but again, not your traditional horror movie. There's some, unsettling imagery here and there, but I think it's a really great story. Again, it is more of a period piece, so we take away all that technology and thus making it pretty comfy. Next, we have one of my favorite movies of all time, one that is very near and dear to me, that was not cozy when I first watched it, I'll tell you that, but I still consider it a cozy horror movie, and that is The Sixth Sense. Young Cole Sear is haunted by a dark secret. He is visited by ghosts. He is too afraid to tell anyone about his anguish except child psychologist Dr. Malcolm Crowe. As Dr. Crowe tries to uncover the truth about Cole's supernatural abilities, the consequences for client and therapist are a jolt that awakens them both to something unexplainable. This is one of, if not the first horror movie I have ever seen, and back when I saw it when I was probably, 12, it was definitely very scary to me. So it does have scary elements to it. It is a ghost story, and some of the imagery is intense. It is still PG-13, so it doesn't push it too far. Also, I think this is Toni Collette's most underrated role, in my opinion. Like, she's a horror queen, obviously. We know her and love her, but she is fantastic in The Sixth Sense. I think all the performances are perfect in this movie, and I'm sure everyone knows about this movie and knows the twist and everything, because obviously people make fun of it and meme it all the time, especially in the early 2000s, but I think it's great on a rewatch. I rewatch this one all the time. It's, to me, a perfect movie. Also, ultimate sweaters. Toni Collette wears some really great sweaters in this that are just adding to the cozy atmosphere with the spooky ghosts and the red colors and everything. It's just very cozy. Next up we have, in my opinion, a very underrated movie, and that is The Innkeepers. During the final days at the Yankee Peddler Inn, two employees determined to reveal the hotel's haunted past begin to experience disturbing events as old guests check in for a stay. This is actually directed by Ty West, and I think it's a very underrated Ty West film. Obviously, we know him from the Pearl Maxine trilogy, but he also made The Innkeepers, and I think it's pretty solid. I love this one. It's very comfy cozy because it's not scary. To me, it's not scary anyway. There, again, are a couple scenes. I know that there's some jump scares in it if you're sensitive to that. I love the setting of this one in particular because I feel like it's something different. It's an old haunted inn, so it's like a smaller hotel. It feels more like a house. And this one, again, is more about the atmosphere and the story and the characters that we're following, the employees and whatnot, and this girl like really trying to get to the bottom of the hauntings in this inn. So it kind kind of reminds me a little bit of The Changeling. If you're a fan of that movie and kind of that atmosphere of following this story and getting to the bottom of things, then you would probably like The Innkeepers. And honestly, an old inn with mood lighting, that's just like the perfect cozy setting to me. Next up, we have The Village. What can I say? M. Night Shyamalan really knows how to make a cozy movie. An Amish-style community lives cut off from the outside world by the woods in which they believe dangerous creatures exist. They have an uneasy truce with the creatures. If they stay out of the woods, they are left unharmed. When one of the young villagers becomes ill, the boy who loves her ignores the elders of the village to make a bid to the next town to fetch medicine. A lot of people like to hate this movie. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. Again, a little bit of that period piece atmosphere going on, and just a very like cozy village where they all like live in little little cabins next to the woods. This is very heavily focused on the woods themselves, which I think is very cozy. Can I say that? The woods have always been very comforting to me personally. I live near some woods, and it's very beautiful. This one I think is best viewed post-Halloween, like in that early November stage of the weather. So, but obviously you can watch this whenever, but just, you know, if you're looking for November movies, I think this one is perfect for November. Okay, the last cozy, spooky movie that I have to recommend is The Woman in Black. Arthur Kipps is recently widowed and grieving the loss of his wife when he is sent to a remote village to put a deceased eccentric's affairs in order. Kipps discovers that his late client's house is haunted by the spirit of a woman who is trying to find someone and something she lost, that no one, not even the children, is safe from her terrible wrath. Now this one definitely has a lot of jump scares in it. It's that early 2010s typical kind of movie in that way. This movie is another book adaptation. This one is by Susan Hill, which I also highly recommend the book. I loved this book. I think it's a really great, easy, short, spooky read as well. If you're looking to reach a certain number of books this year, I think this is a great one. This movie is atmosphere, okay? It's a little bit like The Changeling in story. If The Changeling was done in 2010, like that's what this movie would be, with the jump scares and everything. But atmosphere, this one has so much atmosphere. Again, period piece setting as well. Super old technology, old cars, horse and carriage kind of vibe. But the fog, the house, just the marsh, all of it is so stunning. And then of course we have the old mansion, the spirits, that kind of spooky element to it. I feel like the movie does feel dated for when this came out, in the time period it came out in 2012, but I still love this movie and still think it is a beautiful period piece, cozy, spooky movie. Make sure to let me know down below what your favorite cozy, spooky movie is that you can think of that has that perfect, like, comforting setting or atmosphere. And also, if you want to stream any of these outside of the US, make sure you check out nordvpn.com/PossessedbyHorror. Again, link in the description down below for the exclusive deal. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Bye.